Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. Continuing on, which I think is what I was going to say instead of critical, continuing reactions. Continuing on today though, we're going to explore another special selection, which of course is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's comes at us from Florian, German black metal. Let's dive straight into this. The band is Totenwache. The track is Gloria Antichristi, which is Latin for glory to the Antichrist. So, black metal and anti-religion, name a more iconic duo. Let's dive into this and see what's going on. Tons of reverb on that snare. Really upbeat harmonic palette though. It's brighter than I would expect for black metal. I think that punkier drum bit right there doesn't help cement it any further down though. Oh, the bass is pretty clearly heard in the center channel as well. I will give these guys a lot of praise for their production though. This is certainly some hi-fi black metal and everything is clearly heard without getting rid of any of that overlying buzz that they certainly want for their sounds. Ooh, that's some darkness. Oh, really interesting. Yeah, that melody is very post-hardcore to me. But of course using 16th note picking rather than allowing the notes to ring out. There's a lot of precision to this as well. You know, we're over halfway done, and I haven't heard any sloppiness in the playing, which is impressive given the raw endurance of just constant 16th notes from everybody. Are the guitars playing 8th notes now? I know the drums went to half time. Oh no, not post-hardcore. It's actually a very specific song that this reminds me of. I think it's chapter 4 from Avenged Sevenfold off their Waking the Fallen album. This is probably my favorite part of the whole song. Just this one riff with like the funky drums. I wish they would have done this more often. There's a third guitar in that version. We got a bit of a variation on that idea. Altogether, I think that idea comes in just a hair bit too late. It's surprising for sure, and I'm glad to hear it, but I wish we could have had more of that complexity throughout. The dyads that we hear throughout this entire song are nice, and they do bring some interesting harmonic melodies. I have a hard time calling black metal ideas melodic because they're just held out notes. But I guess they are. It's interesting because they gotta get my words together. They work within two realms: the constant 16th notes and the fact that we typically hear two guitars playing dyads, giving us the sense of chordal movement and harmonic information, means that they work very well within the realms of atmosphere. I think black metal is a very atmospheric genre as a whole, even outside of the atmospheric black metal subgenre. But I do suppose there is something melodic to these riffs, even if I wouldn't call them melodies outright. Um, yeah, it's kind of weird. They're kind of melodic, heavily atmospheric. I recognize this band name too, Totenwache. What else have they done? Oh, wait. No? I gotta look up something real quick. Um, I remember we did. They have a track called Tollbringer. Oh, okay. Totally different band. And I was like, that sounds like an album name. Have we checked out this whole album before? But no. Allende has a track called Tollbringer, which I assume that track is also on there. That's okay. So I don't think we've checked out this album, though not a lot of none of these titles are in English, so the likelihood of me remembering it, I don't know. Someone remind me. I can just check. Why didn't I just check? That would have been a smart thing to do. We have never checked out this band before, at least with a full reaction. It might have been on a live stream. I bring it up though because I think they do something right with black metal. That isn't to say that I'm going to go out and dive into this album and listen to it today. It's still a bit too close to the traditional sound to really grab me, but it didn't bounce off of me the way a lot of black metal does. And I think it comes down to the way that they include this most wild concept into their music. Contrast. I feel like I should just paste the word contrast somewhere on the video in every video because this topic comes up all the time. It is so important to me and is so deeply ingrained into my understanding of what could make music great that I can't help but talk about it. But they find a way to introduce it into a track that is kind of lacking contrast overall. It's changes on the minutia. Overall, this track is constant drumming, 16th notes throughout most of it, occasionally falling back into 8th notes, 16th note strumming across two guitars for 9 straight minutes, and vocals in a rather repetitive, rigid rhythmic style that is also kind of tucked into the music production wise, where it ends up feeling more of a texture than a lead element. That description can describe all of this track. It is fairly one note, but they do find a way to introduce rhythmic variation, if nothing else, as well as a little bit of harmonic variation at times. And I think between the two of them, while I did think the track was a hair bit too long, I don't know exactly what the structure was here, but I know we revisited many of these sections at least 3 times. Um, but despite that, it's still something that I found I could keep my attention on throughout most of the reaction, which I think is impressive for black metal, which to me is a genre that actively tries to disappear from my ear. It wants so bad to fall into the background of whatever I'm doing and for me not to engage with it. And I think a lot of that is just due to the lack of contrast in a lot of black metal. This song throughout, we saw changes in uh, the rigid rhythmic component, shifting from straight 16th notes to 8th notes. We even saw a little bit of syncopation in the rhythm, which I think is something that black metal on the whole hates, has such an aversion towards. And I think syncopation is something that's going to help vary up the rhythmic cadence and sound of a song and going to provide it those moments of differentiation. And, some of this could be summed up to me having a young ear for black metal. And that there are a lot of nuances that seasoned listeners pick out, and they're like, no, this is definitely an A section and a B section, and this is certainly a bridge, and all I hear is one big section of 16th notes. Maybe after 3 years, I still have more room to develop my ear on this, but rhythmic cadences are it's certainly going to help dice up a track into ideas. For instance, we have the 16th note bass kicks. We have the alternating bass and snare. We have that punky do-do-ga, 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 do-do-ga kind of idea that comes in every once in a while. And that just creates a little bit of ebb and flow to the track. We have one speed, we have a second speed, we have an inversion of those speeds where we have both of them at the same time. We have the 16th note into the 8th. And then the back half of that 8th is reverb off of the snare hit. There's actually no attack there. And that space, I think, is really important too, because black metal is afraid of rests. I mean, a lot of metal is afraid of rests, but black metal just has to constantly attack, as well as not really allowing there to be a silence or a dead moment at all. And so allowing these moments of no hit, even if it's just from the drums, helps break up the monotony a little bit. There's also the harmonic changes throughout here as well. As I mentioned, some of these pieces sounded a bit more post-hardcore. Some of the intervals on the guitar sounded a little baroque. Some had that pure, sinister black metal sound to them. The riffs themselves evoked different feelings, which I know that is rather common in black metal, but usually I have to work to hear that. And that kind of brings me to this other point here that I really enjoy the production on this track. It still has that heavy, fuzzy static on top of everything. This is not a clear song to listen to, but there is a clarity to the instruments within the overall sound. I can hear the bass in the center. It frequently acts as a third instrument against the other two guitars and their dyads, sometimes doing its own thing and sometimes adding a third note and creating these chordal triads instead of our dyads. I can hear the drums. The bass isn't this muddy grumbling on the bottom of the track. I can hear each individual hit on it. Everything is still a bit on the muddier, fuzzier, staticky side. It still has that quintessential black metal sound. It's just not muddy and overly distorted to the point where it's difficult to hear anything, and I really appreciate that. I can hear the notes out of the guitars, I can hear the individual hits out of the drums, and I can hear the bass, which, I mean, that's such a low bar, but it's a step up sometimes. Um, and all this is to say that this is very much just black metal in a lot of ways, but it also elevates it just a little bit in my ears. And I say elevate as if it improves, and I don't want people to walk away from this thinking that I believe this to be better than any other black metal out there. It just works better for my tastes. Maybe true cult black metal listeners out there find this to be too clean, it's too poppy to their ears. Um, and that's fair. But I really enjoy a lot of the ways that they have taken the black metal sound and softened it up just a hair. And that's not to say that it's an exceptionally soft song either. The vocals are still gnarly goblin noises, and the guitars are, these fuzzy beasts that sit on the outside of this track and act as walls holding all the sound in. And it's still an assault on the senses. There are no moments of rest or relaxation or reprieve from the onslaught of sound. It's just softened it up a little bit. I want to take some some time to read some lyrics here, and then we'll wrap this one up. Lyrically, though, this sort of falls in the realms of the area of black metal that just sort of bounces off of me. Uh, I think overall, the themes of anti religion are fine, but black metal always takes it in like the cringiest ways. And I suppose I say that with endearment. I'm not going to say that I listen to a lot of literary perfection in my favorite songs either. And, being an emo boy myself, there's a lot of lines that I love that are absolutely cringy. So I say this from a place of love, but it's so overdone to a point that feels eh. But on the flip side, there is a comical level of, at least to me, man, what is it called? Pot calling the kettle black. What is the word for that? Hypocrisy maybe is what I want here. The first three stanzas speak about the corruption of the priests and them leading people who blindly follow them, unable to see their corruption. It says, like pigs, you run to the trough, but honor and fame are only for the best. Bright illusions with false confidence, our souls and our eyesight go blind. Prophet and priest have conspired, psalm and hymns deafen our ears. Crowds of you clinging to dim hope, self inflicted whining about your lives. Talking about the persecution complex of a lot of religious people who really identify as religious. It's their whole livelihood, right? And the persecution complex that goes with that, but also following these prophets and priests who aren't as holy as they seem. They conspire behind you and you follow them blindly, right? This idea that these are false idols, basically, or at least veering on the side of false idolatry. What happens after that is the Antichrist falls into the lands. A barn is caught on fire, and the call is made to smash your priesthood and to kill the blind faith sheep. So they do. And those same pigs that was metaphorically used at the beginning are now hanging, whimpering on an old oak tree. The final lines are death to the believing sheep, victory the Antichrist. The idea of blindly following someone. He comes down out of nowhere and says, "Hey, let's kill all these people." And we're like, "Yeah, let's do it." I don't know if that hypocrisy is supposed to be put on display here, or if this is supposed to be a sincere mentioning of, fighting for the devil in devil's army, which of course is, we've seen that a lot in black metal. It's really difficult for me to see where the line is drawn here. Maybe this is a song that's supposed to be like, hey, all the Satanists out there in the black metal communities, you're blindly following people just like the people you condemn. Maybe that's the story here. I don't really get it in the lyrics, but we are translating, and so much nuance can be lost in that. So I suppose if anybody wants to go through the German and let me know if there's anything in there that would lead towards a tongue-in-cheek approach to this. Let me know. I don't think it's going to change my view on the track at all. I don't see too much of the lyrics lining up with the music from either perspective of the lyrics, primarily because the music is just straightforward black metal all the time, and the connection is through the culture. It is anti-religious, and black metal has that in spades lyrically. But I am just kind of curious if they're kind of going with that angle, or if they're just falling into the same trappings that many of their predecessors or influences in the genre have also fallen into. I don't know. Those are my thoughts, though, on Totenwache's Gloria Antichristi. Let me know what you thought of this track. Put your comments, perspectives, opinions, all of that stuff down in the comments section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you to this menu right here. You can find links to the Patreon, special selections, my music, ways to support the channel, the Discord, all sorts of stuff. Go ahead and check it out. It's just a bunch of stuff in there. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. Alright, we do have one more special selection for today. Otherwise, catch you next time. I don't know, that's weird. Why don't I just go with my usual spiel? Remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.